So I'm introducing OrgRef. OrgRef is a project that my company DataSalon has been working on. We first announced it about a year ago. So what is OrgRef? OrgRef is a free and open data set containing data about academic and research institutions. So what I mean by that is our primary audience is publishers. They're DataSalon's customers. So let's start with an easy quiz. Can someone name the university? Can someone name the university? Oxford, okay. There is a harder quiz a bit later, so you want to embrace the easy questions. So Oxford University, that's the kind of institution that we're providing data for in OrgRef. So everyone knows what Oxford University is. That's not very complicated. Why would publishers need reference data about institutions? How hard can it be? Okay, how hard can it be? I saw from the previous show of hands there were lots of publishers in the room, so I'm sure some of this looks familiar. These are all real examples of how Oxford University is referred to today in real life in publishers' subscription systems and so on. And let's just take a moment to enjoy quite how bad things can be. So we've got different word order, we've got different abbreviations for university and uni, we've got different misspellings of university, we've got university and things like that. We've got misspellings of Oxford. You can see there we've got Oxford with two X's. Somewhere down there we've got Osford with a Z. And we also have references not to Oxford University but to things like Bodleian Library, so the main library in the university. And also in the city and country fields, the basic location information is sometimes absent or messy. So in real life, unfortunately, I suspect a lot of the publishers will recognize this. So it's not as simple as it sounds just to say Oxford University. So that's one of the reasons why having some reference data like OrgRef is really important to help clean and standardize the data you have. A second reason is if you have a list, then you can potentially find potential new customers who you aren't currently talking to. And a third benefit is it provides some kind of common reference point. So if a publisher is working with an agent, wouldn't it be nice if you were absolutely clear about which customers you were talking about? So how have we sourced OrgRef? The guiding principle was we didn't want to go and research anything from scratch. There's loads of good data on the internet already under an open license, and so the aim was just to harvest existing open data and provide it back in an easy-to-use format. So we found three sources that we're using at the moment as a basis for OrgRef. The first is Wikipedia. Everybody knows what Wikipedia is. It has pretty good coverage of institutions, universities, hospitals, colleges, and so on. And as well as the article, a lot of them have this box on the right, which is called an info box, which has some nice semi-structured information that's quite easy to harvest through the Wikipedia API. The second source we're using is Wikidata. Wikidata is less well known. It's a sister project of Wikipedia. And whereas Wikipedia is giving you free text encyclopedia articles, Wikidata is all about structured text. So there are no sentences. You just get fields and values like this. And that's the data they have for Oxford at the moment. And the third and final source is ISNI, the International Standard Name Identifier. And the scope of ISNI is much bigger than academic institutions. It includes all kinds of organizations. It also includes individuals, so authors, artists, and so on. But within ISNI, there is a very useful core of public data accessible via API under an open license, including information like this. So what we're doing with the OrgRef project is we've written a robot web crawler. It's harvesting data from Wikipedia, Wikidata, and ISNI, and it's generating a nice clean data set, which then looks a bit like this. So this is an OrgRef record. Staying with the Oxford example. So this is basic metadata. This is what you get. So you get the name and some basic location information, and that is then obviously what would enable you to tidy up all that mess we saw at the beginning. You get the website, the category. There are about 10 categories. We're largely taking those from ISNI just to differentiate things like universities from things like hospitals and companies. The level references the hierarchy concept. So an org is an organization. We also have a level of sub. So if an institution is a library or a faculty that's subsidiary to an organization, that would be sub. And the other level goes above, that's group. So that covers things that group multiple organizations, so that would be consortia and statewide systems and so on. So it's pretty basic stuff, but effectively it's free for anybody to use, and we're using all of these different, we're supplying these different ID numbers, so we're not adding yet another source of data to compare and contrast with everything else out there. We're just harnessing the data that's already out there through ISNI, Wikipedia, etc., and providing it back in an easy-to-download table so that publishers and other people in the industry can use it if they wish. Inclusion policy, there are currently around 32,000 records in OrgRef. We're trying to focus on those institutions who buy content from scholarly publishers. So from a publisher's perspective, it's your customers or your potential customers. That may sound not big enough, but we work with at DataSalon, we work with lots of publishers. We process lots of their subscription data and analyse it. So we've got a fairly good idea of how many unique customers even the largest publishers actually have. This is the second quiz question. And anybody hazard a guess how many unique publishers a large, how many unique customers a large publisher would tend to have? 20,000? Not a bad guess. We struggle to find one with more than 15,000 unique customers in terms of actual buying points. Clearly there are libraries and faculties and so on, but in terms of separate entities who are paying publishers separately, about 15,000. So 15 to 20, let's say. So in that context, 32,000 records in OrgRef is usefully focused. Why free and open? DataSalon's a commercial company. Why aren't we licensing this data for a fee? Well, there are two answers to this. The first answer is because we're nice. It's that kind of industry, and it's good to give something back. If the data were only available for a fee, you'd end up with this kind of rich man, poor man scenario where some publishers and players in the industry have budget to license that kind of data. Others, often the smaller society publishers, don't have budget. And this kind of data set is much more useful if anybody can use it freely, and you don't have to kind of have a discussion as to whether another partner has a license to look at the data. So that's one reason. And the second reason is very secondary and hardly worth mentioning, but it happens to support DataSalon's commercial business model for OrgRef to exist. Our core business is helping publishers with data cleansing, integration and analysis. We're effectively working with publishers to join together their author data, the subscriptions data, the usage data, to analyse that for new trends and new opportunities. And to do that, then there needs to be some useful reference data to help clean up the kind of mess that can exist at source. So it supports our commercial business. And I should clarify, the OrgRef dataset is free and open, so anybody can download the file and use it within the terms of the open license. We do separately provide commercial tools and services to help publishers connect it to their own data, analyse it, etc. So those are the reasons why it's free and open. Who's using it so far? It's still relatively early days for the project, but several publishers have already adopted OrgRef and are actively using it in their business. 4 of them are on this slide. I just wanted to call out APS, American Physical Society in particular, because there is a single subject specialist. They approached us about OrgRef, and they were interested to know whether it would have good enough coverage for a physics specialist publisher who only works with certain types of organisation. And we've worked together very closely over the last 6 months, and they've declared themselves to be very impressed with what OrgRef has done for them. So that's quite a nice seal of approval to have. Next steps for you in terms of what could you do after this meeting. OrgRef has its own website, which is orgref.org. You can go to the download page. You can download the dataset. You don't need to register your details. You don't need to be a customer of DataSalon. It's free under the same license as Wikipedia. So please download it and have a look. If you have any questions or feedback about the data, then we'd love to hear from you. And equally, if you'd like to talk to us about how to help you do more with the OrgRef data and integrate it into your business, then we'd love to hear from you about that too. And thank you for listening.
Hi, Nick. Ian Russell from Bioscientifica. You're obviously OrgRef is one of a number of initiatives that's trying to solve this problem. I just wondered, you didn't mention anything about the relationship between organisations and larger entities and smaller entities, so colleges that belong to the University of Oxford and perhaps a consortia that Oxford belongs to. Are there any plans to cover those parent-child relationships?
Good question. Yes, so currently we are flagging institutions that are organisations and those that are subsidiaries. We aren't linking, for example, an Oxford college to Oxford to say this is a child of Oxford University. The reason we're not doing that at the moment is because there isn't open data out on the web that is accurately representing those relationships that we can harvest. So that's not easily accessible from Wikipedia, from ISNI, etc. So within the scope of kind of harvesting open data and providing it back, the project is limited by how good the data is that's already out there on the web.
So there's a great deal of utility in obviously knowing those relationships. So does that mean that because it's more difficult to do, you won't be covering it at all, or do you think it would be a future phase?
So there's a kind of two-tier thing in that we have our production database of OrgRef and we have the public file. So we're already starting to add those kinds of relationship links into the production the development database, but we haven't released it yet because it's not complete. So it will be there in future, but it's not there at the moment.
Okay. Nick, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it on? Sorry, this is Richard Padley from Semantica. I think what you've got there is really good. One question I have, which is around, I suppose, don't take this in an unkind sense, but do we need another non-standard identifier, is what I'm asking you. And what I mean by that really is there an opportunity maybe for you to leverage the good work that you've done here to put stuff back into ISNI, for example, so that everything has, at the end of the day, gets an ISNI number? Or do you think that, could you just talk to us a little bit about that? Are you happy to have another identifier that people hook onto as the OrgRef identifier that becomes a sort of de facto standard? Is that where you'd like it to go, or would you, tell us your position around that?
We're not really promoting the OrgRef ID as something that we're keen for people to adopt. It's there if people want it, but the principle is we're just trying to gather data that's already out there. So almost all the records have a Wikipedia ID, almost all the records have a Wikidata ID, over half have an ISNI number, and we're trying to get that higher. So effectively you could use the OrgRef metadata, but choose to be referencing the Wikidata ID, for example. And I think longer term, we'll probably be looking to load the data we've harvested back into Wikidata. I think that's probably our preferred target because it's structured data, it has a standard ID, it has the same wiki model as Wikipedia, so anyone can add and edit if they feel the data's wrong. So at the moment, we're kind of working outside Wikidata, but longer term, we're thinking load it all back into Wikidata, and then that can be the home for it.